Hey everyone. So today we're tackling a topic that, a lot of us have probably felt at some point burnout. It's that feeling of complete and utter exhaustion, and it always feels so personal, right? Like you failed somehow. But what if the real cause is actually hiding in plain sight? I mean, that's the first question we ask ourselves, isn't it? When you're just done. When you can't get out of bed, the exhaustion is bone deep. You look in the mirror and you think, what did I do wrong? How did I let this happen? Is this my fault? And all the advice you get seems to say, yeah, it is. Think about it. You're told to try mindfulness, to go to resilience training, to manage your time better, just think more positively. You see the pattern, right? Every single one of those fixes puts the burden right back on you to just cope better. Okay, but what if we're looking at this from a completely wrong angle? What if you've done the mindfulness apps, you've tried all the time management hacks, and you're still completely fried? It makes you wonder, right? What if the problem was never you to begin with? And that brings us to the main idea for today. The theory that burnout isn't some kind of personal flaw. It's actually a predictable result of the way many of our modern workplaces are set up. So it's time we stopped blaming ourselves and started looking at the bigger system at play. This right here is the big shift in thinking. We've got to get away from this myth that being burnt out is a personal failing. It's just not. The reality is that it's a systemic outcome. It's not about you being weak. It's about the system creating pressures that are frankly unsustainable. So, what do we mean by the system? Well, the source we're looking at calls them modern control systems. Basically, these are workplaces that are obsessed with numbers, with metrics, with making sure everything is predictable. And they value all that way more than they value things like professional trust or human judgment or just the fact that people aren't robots. And the thing about these systems is that the damage they cause is sneaky. It's not going to be some big explosive scandal that makes the news. Nope, it's quiet, it's procedural, and it just builds and builds over time, showing up inside us, in our actual nervous systems. Now, here is where it gets really interesting, and kind of backwards. You'd think these systems would chew up and spit out the slackers or the rebels. But no, so often the people who get hurt the most are the best employees. It's what's called the paradox of conscientiousness. This is the heart of that paradox. All those traits that get you hired in the first place, being conscientious, disciplined, having a strong sense of duty, being the person who stays quiet and gets it done under pressure, those become your biggest vulnerabilities. Why? Well, because people like that tend to just absorb all that pressure. They blame themselves instead of pushing back on the system. And all that pressure leads to this slow, creeping process, a gradual narrowing of the mind. It happens in stages. First, you just absorb the pressure and you tell yourself it's normal. Then you stop using your expert judgment and just start doing what you're told, compliance. After a while, your confidence starts to fade. And finally, you're not even looking for meaning in your work anymore. You're just trying to hit the targets. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. This isn't about having a villain for a boss or working for some evil company. A system doesn't need bad people to do real harm. All it needs is a set of goals and incentives that completely, totally ignores the fact that human beings have limits. Okay, so if we're saying it's not about blaming bad guys, then what's the point of all this? Well, the goal here isn't to get everyone angry or outraged. The real goal is just to understand, to give you a new lens to see what might be happening around you or to you. Because really, the whole value of this is in pattern recognition. Once you can see the pattern, once you can spot the signs of one of these erosive systems, that's when you get your power back. It's the absolute first step to protecting your own sanity and your own integrity. Now, this is not an argument against having rules or structure at work, not at all. There's a huge difference between a supportive structure, one that helps people learn and builds trust, and an erosive control system. That second one, all it produces is fear and mimicry, where everyone's just trying to look like they're doing the right thing to avoid getting in trouble. So let's bring it all home. If you take one thing away from this, please let it be this. If you've ever felt burned out, your story is not about weakness. It's a story about what happens when a good, dedicated person runs up against the very real limits of a system. And that leads to this final, really powerful idea. Recognizing those limits isn't a bad thing, because once you truly understand where the limits are, they stop being constraints that box you in. Instead, they become boundaries. And boundaries are something you can use to protect yourself and build a better way forward.